Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
You're welcome.
For sharing your thoughts. The first question that I'll ask you is, when did you first hear of the Citadel?
Well, I grew up knowing about the Citadel. I'm a native Charlestonian. Just was something that that we talked about occasionally at home. I rode public transportation. There was a bus that rode right by the Citadel called the King Street Citadel bus, and I just look over there and see the cadets, and so I would say I grew up knowing about the Citadel.
And what led you to decide to join the Corps of Cadets?
That's a series of steps. It was not so much my decision to join, but the first thing I will say is that my father was someone that believed in education, and he dreamt, my mother tells me, and father told me from the time that I was born, that he prayed that one day he would see one of his sons be able to attend the Citadel. I'm the firstborn out of 4 children, and my father's dream came true. My high school, we were, as you know, my point of birth order in this society, born in 1952, and I was part of that civil rights generation in 1969 when I graduated from high school. The civil rights movement was in full flow, and Dr. King had just been assassinated in 1968. And so we all were focused, and we knew that integration was happening. So as far as my decision to attend the Citadel, we were basically, I like to say, I was chosen. I was chosen. My guidance counselor brought myself and 3 other classmates from my high school, for a total of 4 of us, into her office and said, "We want you to apply to the Citadel." And we did. I was intent on going somewhere else, and I found out I was at a summer program in Williamstown, Massachusetts. My dad called me and said, "You got a full scholarship to the Citadel." I went, "Oh my gosh." He said, "That's where you got to go, son." And so that's how I came to the Citadel.
That's wonderful. And what was your first impression when you arrived on campus?
One of uncertainty, one of awe, realizing that I was doing something that only 3 other African Americans have done. Charlie Foster being the first, Joe Shine being the second, and Eddie Addison being the third. And my class was the first class to have multiple African Americans to start the freshman year. And so my first impression was that we knew we were doing something that only 3 other African Americans had done before, and that we were making changes. So my impression was just in awe, making sure that I can do what I needed to do.
That's wonderful. Are there any interactions that you had with Charles Foster as a cadet that you can share with us?
I knew Charles Foster from high school. He graduated from C.A. Brown High School in 1966. I think I was a sophomore then. And my interactions with him goes back to high school. He was a football player at our high school. He was looked at as a hero, as a giant, someone that was a trailblazer. So when I came to the Citadel, he was a senior, I was a freshman. I was in band company. He was in, if I remember right, G company. And I do remember my freshman year, I think it was second semester. He called me up to he asked me to come to his room, and he made sure that I got to his room, because as a freshman, he didn't go to another company, but he had me come to his room. And I remember him looking at me and telling me to please don't let them break you. And I said, because he knew I was having a hard time. And I said, I'm gonna do my best. He said, no, Larry, promise me. He said, because they tried to break me down. Just promise me you'd never let them break you. And I told him I would not let them break me. I promise you that, Charles. And that was basically it. I would see him from time to time on campus as a freshman, but very little interaction. I can say that he appeared different from how he looked in high school. In high school, he was a very affable, buff, outgoing guy, football player. At Citadel, he was still very fit, very buff, but very reserved. Something had changed.
Thank you. As the first and only African-American cadet on campus his freshman year, how do you think Charles Foster felt?
My opinion, I feel he felt isolated. I think he felt alone. I think but he also knew the gravity of the historic position that he occupied. And the reason I know that is because the high school that we went to, C.A. Brown High School, our teachers were very sensitive to that, and they helped us to appreciate the fact that we were a part of a generation that was helping to change the South, to change America, to change our city. And I know Charles was very well aware of that. And I know that was, even though I'm quite sure he felt isolated, and I have a lot of reasons to feel that way, how I think he would have felt. But I also know that he felt the strength to continue on because he knew he was doing something that was very historic and that would make a statement for generations to come.
So in your opinion, why is it important that we remember Charles Foster today?
I think it's important for us to remember Charles Foster because, in my opinion, he was a hero. He's a true American hero. He's a true hero of Charleston. I believe that we need to remember him because when he entered the Citadel, there was a purposeful decision to downplay his desegregation of the Citadel, to make it mundane. Unlike 1995 or 96, whenever Shannon Faulkner and women came into the Citadel, was admitted into the Citadel. There was much fanfare. There was a lot of news articles, news press. Foster was purposely downplayed, and as we all know now, even when a major affiliate wanted to interview him, the local station or someone said no, or someone on the campus said no. So I think it's important because we need to celebrate what he began. He truly opened the doors for what we're seeing now. The racial diversity, the gender diversity that we're seeing now is all because of Charles Foster opening those doors. And to me, we need to celebrate him and elevate him to the position of honor that he deserves.